All right, shalom, shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Hakurash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at GMS. Peace, honor, and respect to you, brothers that's out there laboring, edifying, rightly dividing the word and truth and sincerity. And shalom to you, believers out there, the Akim wa Akwa. All right, so we're about to get into it. Let me just do this. All right, you see the video I have here. All right, it's called The Secret Family That Controls All the Food You Eat. All right, and it's going to go to the family of the Cargills. All right, because one thing about it, the Lord did say we was going to eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles, roughly paraphrasing. I do have it, in fact, right here. Then we're going to look up some things. So Ezekiel 4:13, it says, and the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whether I will drive them. All right. So this was prophecy. It happened in ancient times and it's happening now. All right. Nothing new under the sun. So I'm gonna just get right into it. And then I don't want to talk much. We're gonna get right into it and let the scripture speak. Lord willing, it's edifying. Lord willing, the playback is good. All right, here we go.
Deep in the heart of Wayzata, Minnesota, lies one of the biggest family dynasties in America, except you've never heard of their name. This family dynasty made more money last year than Coca-Cola, Nestle, and Chevron combined. In fact, they're the largest private company in the US, and this single company controls a massive share of your food supply. They're responsible for supplying food for some of the biggest brands out there, like McDonald's, Burger King, Kellogg's, Mars, Dunkin' Donuts, Unilever, Safeway, Kroger, Albertsons, Audi, Tesco, and many, many more. Look in your kitchen right now, and you're going to find a ton of food made by this secret mega corporation, from cocoa powder to cooking oil.
All right, so you see, again, the Bible, you know, you can't made it with no other book because it tell you what happened in ancient times, in the present, and now. All right, and it was already told to us that let me just go back. That Esau, the so-called white man, will have what? The fatness of the earth. Now, when we go to Genesis 38, all right, this is when Isaac got the blessing as well as Jacob. Now, Esau, the so-called white man, his blessing right now is temporary. All right. He's the ruler of the earth. The earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. Genesis 27:38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? My father blessed me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of the heaven from above. And what do the dew cover? It covers everything. All right. But one thing it did say, he was going to get the fatness of the earth. All right. Now let's look that up. Because one thing about it, when you get the fatness of everything, you get the what do it say? The fertile place, richly prepared food. See, it's going into food. You get the fatness. You get the large portion of it. Okay, we know Esau Edom, what he controlled the natural resources, and as you can see right here, he controlled the food. Okay, the food industry. So I looked up fatness, Google search, and it says the state or quality of having a large amount of excess flesh. All right, and he has a large amount of the portion of the earth right now. He's in his kingdom. Okay, again, he controls the food industry, the natural resources. He makes the laws, the legislations. All right, he's in power. He's been given a fatness. Now I looked up fertile. Oh, Salakia. I forgot I got to switch. This was the definition of fatness, the state or quality of having a large amount of excess flesh. All right. Now I looked up fertile and it says what? Of soil or land, producing or capable of producing abundant vegetation or crops. All right. So Esau was given this. All right. He was given the fertile place. All right. He was given that fatness. Let's go back to the video.
potatoes, salt, sugar, eggs, meat, but you won't find their name on any of these labels. Most of you have never even heard of this name before. That's because this American dynasty has worked very hard to keep it that way. They don't want you to know what they're doing behind their factory doors. Because if you ever found out, you would never buy their food products again. It's that bad. What is the name of this family, you ask? Cargill.
All right, see, and Esau, he rules through what? Deception. Let's get that. Because let's first go here to Revelation 20. It tells you in verse 3, what do it say? It says Satan bound in the heading, but that's speaking about the so-called white man. It's not speaking about the spiritual demon Satan. All right, and cast him into the bottomless pit and let me see. Let's start at verse 2. Well, we're gonna start at verse 1. All right. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the keys of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And speaking about Yahweh Shah, our Lord and Savior. And he laid a hold on the dragon, that serpent, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, this period is going into the Renaissance. Slaki. This is going into the Dark Ages. All right, when the Moors came into power, all right, which was Israelites. Okay, that whole time period when we ruled, in Europe, we ruled. Okay, the Byzantine Empire. All right, all of that was Jake. That was us. In that 1,000 years, so-called white man, he didn't have no power. He wasn't able to deceive the nations. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. This is a part of his blessings, low key too. It's deception, man. All right, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season, and we're in that little season right now. This is why Esau is controlling the food industry. He had the natural resources. Now, when you jump down to verse 7, it says, and when 1,000 years expire, now this is going into the Renaissance period. All right, when they start coming back into power, and then they start performing what? Iconoclasm. They start painting our Lord white, painting even the Heavenly Father white, the 12 patriarchs, and so on and so forth. Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. All right. And a lot of that was through iconoclasm, through the keeping history, certain parts of history locked up, like that we ruled in Europe. All right. That they was under our foot in Europe. All right. Painting the kings and queens of England that were Negroid, all right, that were Israelites, white, man, making them Edomites. Gog and Magog together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. All right. And see, let's go to Genesis. Again, deception. Even from the beginning, when you go to Genesis 3:1, what do it say? Now the serpent, all right, now wasn't no snake. All right, was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord power had made. All right. And he said unto the woman, yeah, have the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. All right. But the point I want to make was subtle. Now let's look that up. When you look that up, let's get a simple Google search on subtle. It's like, okay. All right. Because these Edomites is very subtle. They're very slick and sly. Okay. Now, subtle, what do it say? Subtle, shrewd, crafty, sly, sensible. Let's look at that. Let's get some Google definitions. See? It says what? Especially of a change or distinction so delicate or precise as to be difficult to analyze or describe. All right. And when we go to the similar words you find here, elusive. All right. Over nice, obstruct. Let's look up elusive. Difficult to find, catch, or achieve. All right. That's why they're they're in that secrecy, man. All right. That's why you don't know who control the planet Earth. That's why you didn't even know about the Cargills. You don't know their name. All right. They tell you the richest man is Elon Musk, and no, they're not. And when you won't know. You're not gonna find out. All right. Let's go back. Subtle. What else? Another word. I want to get. Dang, I don't even think I share my screen. Salaki, I gotta remember to share my screen. All right. This was the definition of subtle. All right. Then we got this similar word, Salakia. All right. Um, then we got elusive. All right. Let me see. Slippery. All right. Shifty. This is all describing the Edomite, man. Okay. Even sly. You see? That's him, man. All right. So let's go back to the video.
What is the name of this family, you ask? Cargill. Eating processed food from companies like Cargill is a surefire way to shorten your life. But fortunately, longevity researchers like David Sinclair have recently made some promising discoveries on how to mitigate or even slow down aging altogether. And that is why I use Verso. Verso is a company that translates these resveratrol and TMG. These three molecules are paying for. So if you want to join me, you can use the Verso for sponsoring this video.
See? Why so secret? All right. That's the part of that deceit. That's a part of that craftiness, that slyness, that subtlety, man.
Cargill may have started out as a single shack on the side of the road, but today they're a whole lot bigger. Cargill is the largest private company in the US, and if they were public, they would be ranked number 15 on the Fortune 500 list, just in front of AT&T. And Cargill has its fingers in almost every pie imaginable, from grains to livestock to palm oil and coca, to metals, animal feed, energy, and even hedge funds. The total
And that's the fatness of the earth. Okay. All right.
revenue in 2021 was $135 billion, which is almost double the amount of what other big agricultural companies like ADM, Bunge, and Dreyfus made that year. In fact, this makes Cargill bigger than the entire GDP of Morocco. But if you wanted to buy some Cargill shares, you will be fresh out of luck, because Cargill doesn't want your peasant money. It is not worth it to them. Cargill has purposely remained a private company. For a lot of companies, going public on the stock market is the dream. But Cargill knows that if they went public, they would have to report everything to the shareholders, which would expose them to a lot of public scrutiny. But for what? It's not like they need the money. They already secretly control the food industry. There's a reason why their name doesn't ring a bell. Why? Well, you can't boycott something you don't know about, right? And there's a lot to boycott about. When you own an agriculture business, you're at the constant whims of nature. Droughts, floods, global shortages of seeds. All of that can be a very serious threat to your main moneymakers. What if your primary food export suddenly dried up one day? And that was the exact position Cargill found themselves in 1997 during the Asian financial crisis. See, at the time, Cargill was sourcing a lot of its crops from the Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, and Korea. But when Asia fell into a financial crisis, it caused a lot of the agriculture producers Cargill was buying from to close down. Suddenly, Cargill couldn't get soy, wheat, and corn from these countries at the same prices they were before. So Cargill ended up losing $4 billion, which at the time was the equivalent of 8 years of profit for them. It was one of Cargill's biggest losses to date, and it plunged them into debts. Understandably, the Cargill family panicked. So they shook up management and put a new guy in charge to hopefully lead them back to the promised land. And the man they chose to do that was Warren Stolley, one of Cargill's most loyal employees that had been working there since 1969. And when Warren Stolley stepped up as the head of Cargill, he did in fact lead them back to the promised land, but at a huge cost. cargo needed to dig themselves out of that $4 billion pit. And since one of their most lucrative crops was coca, they went on the hunt for an ultra-cheap source, and they eventually found it on the Ivory Coast. During the 90s, children were being trafficked from Mali into the Ivory Coast for slave labor. These kids weren't being paid, they were barely fed, they were physically.
All right, and you see off the Ivory Coast, and the Ivory Coast, some brothers and sisters might know, but for edification's sake, all right, in Africa, and specifically, all right, the west coast of Africa. As you can see, you have Nigeria, Benin, all right. You got all of it where we was at, what was called Negro land. All right, and they said they was transported from Mali to here, to the Ivory Coast. This is the Ivory Coast right here, man. Okay. What was that movie? Blood Diamonds, something about blood diamonds, all of that. That's down here, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And all of this was called Mauritania at one time. All right, and you know Jake, where was them slave ships docking? On the west coast of Africa. See? And it's all, again, it was already prophesied for these things to happen. Okay. Let's go back here.
Abused and were basically held hostage on these farms. One child slave came forward saying that they were forced to spray pesticides on coca crops without any protective clothing. Others say that they were whipped with branches and left in solitary confinements. According to other reports, children who tried to escape were forced to drink urine as punishment. Others say that their feet were cut open and pepper will be rubbed into their wounds. But the benefit of all this child.
See that? Now let's get it. Because again, let's go to the scriptures explain these things, man. Those is a lot of them is Jake's, man. All right, believe that. So what did I have here? That's Deuteronomy 28. All right, that's being under the curses. I'm gonna jump down to verse 41. All right, I need to get that. 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them. See, for they shall go into captivity. All right, and best believe they were snatching up sons and daughters from Mali and wherever else that they entail and brought them down to the Ivory Coast. And what happened? Their parents can know, some sad parents, man. Okay, now jumping down to verse 49, what do it say? And the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth. All right, America. All right, because these are Americans and these Europeans doing that. All right, as swift as the eagle fly, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. All right, you see they were snatching them young kids up, man. All right, let's go back to the video. Like,
Cargill put together plans to expand their coca store houses in 2005. The international firms were able to produce extremely cheap coca. So companies like Nestle, Hershey, Mars, and Cargill put their orders in as fast as possible. In 2005, the International Labor Rights Fund found out about Cargill's connection to these slave camps and filed a lawsuit against them. As of today, the case still hasn't been resolved, and since then, Cargill has just continued growing their coca business. In 2018, Cargill put together plans to expand their coca store houses in Abidjan, a city in the Ivory Coast. In 2019, they invested $113 million into coca processing plants in both the Ivory Coast and Ghana, while at the same time, they keep saying they're against child labor in the press. With coca on lockdown, now Cargill just needed some cheap land. Cargill's main business is storing and processing crops, so obviously they need cheap land to grow cheap crops on. Ideally, the land should be free. So to get their hands on some free land, Cargill got involved with land grabbing in the late 2000s. And yes, land grabbing sounds exactly like what you think it is. In 2011, one of Cargill's palm oil suppliers sent a fleet of security guards to open fire on a nearby Indonesian village. The reason? A villager apparently stole a piece of palm fruits, which may or may not have been true. So in response, the guards evicted 100 people from their homes and bulldozed the entire village to the ground. Coincidentally, that land provided the perfect canvas for a new field of palm fruits. A few years later, Cargill's soy producers in Brazil were accused of sending a private security force into a nearby indigenous village. They smashed down doors, assaulted children, kicked pregnant women in the stomach, 7 indigenous people were shot, several women lost their babies, and what was all this violence for? Because one person from the tribe trespassed on company farmland. But if those indigenous people end up abandoning their homes because of this, conveniently these indigenous people never ended up coming back, so their land was up for grabs. It was turned into more farmland to produce even cheaper crops for Cargill to buy up.
You see, and that's there again what it's saying in Deuteronomy. All right, there go that nation of fierce countenance. They didn't regard the old or show favor to the young. All right, and again, let's go back to the humble beginnings, because remember earlier we had got Genesis where what was Esau's blessing? Was to get the fatness of the earth, okay, and to do from the heaven above, but also that wasn't his only blessing that he was going to be able to get. All right, because when you go to verse 40, it says, "And by thy sword shall thou live, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." All right, and that's going into certain history, but the point was by that sword. All right, and that sword ranges from a real sword to the gun now, to the missile, to them putting out pestilences, all right, to them poisoning the food, man. All right, that's that sword, okay? Whatever they want, they take it through violence. Matter of fact, let's go here. What is that? Let me just stay right here. I know I want to get Micah. Micah will explain it perfectly. All right, and I want to get this in the NLT, because when I read it in NLT, it was just good. All right, so Micah 2, starting at verse 1. He said, "Judgment against wealthy oppressors." All right, you see, and they're very, very wealthy. And there are oppressors. "What sorrow awaits you who lie awake at night, thinking of evil plans? You rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out, simply because you have the power to do so." Right, and you see how they slithering around, being sly, like it said. The gave the description of the Edomites. This is talking about the Edomites, man. All right. You see how they took those villages? All right. You see how they just did it with the sword, but they did it with subtlety as well. Verse 2, "When you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. When you want someone's house, you take it by fraud and violence." See, you cheat a man of his property, stealing his family inheritance, man. And that right there just described perfectly what we just seen. All right. So let's continue.
Because one person from the tribe trespassed on company farmland. But if those indigenous people end up abandoning their homes because of this, conveniently these indigenous people never ended up coming back, so their land was up for grabs. It was turned into more farmland to produce even cheaper crops for Cargill to buy up. Sure, a land grab here and there is nice, but in the grand scheme of things, it just wasn't enough. Cargill needed way more land. And conveniently in 2004, a giant patch of natural rainforest the size of Hawaii was being cleared out of the Amazon rainforest.
You see, you go into the Amazon. All right, that's the lungs of the planet. All right, and that's in Brazil. Now they down there with Jake again. You know, you have Asher and Naphtali. You got other tribes down there, but Asher and Naphtali. All right, mainly Asher. But the Naphtali spreading around there. That's Jake, man.
And what did they use this land for? Why, the most nutritious crop out there, soy. Soy was planted on these lands, and it was offered to foreign countries at dirt cheap prices, and Cargill made sure that they were first in line to buy. But you might
Let's go here. Let's get this in the scriptures. So, I'm gonna keep it in the NLT real quick. Let's go to Habakkuk 2. Habakkuk 2 and verse 5. It says, "Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied." You see how in the beginning he said, "Hey, it just wasn't enough, man." So now they had to go somewhere else. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many people. And then you're gonna see what happens next after they move on from the Amazon. All right, let's go back.
remember that there was a whole eco-friendly movement that was starting to pick up. It was planted on these lands, and it was offered to foreign countries at dirt cheap prices, and Cargill made sure that they were first in line to buy. But you might remember that there was a whole eco-friendly movement that was starting to pick up during this time. Reusable water bottles, fair trade coffee, Save the Rainforest t-shirts, and they did not like what Cargill was up to. So Greenpeace launched their Save the Amazon campaign in 2006, and in response, Cargill publicly agreed to no longer purchase soy from the deforested lands in the Amazon. Cargill even received a special award in environmental leadership for this new agreement. But there was a loophole. Greenpeace didn't say anything about Cerrado, another lesser-known rainforest in Brazil that is still equally important. Cerrado contains 5% of the world's plant and animal species and 8 of Brazil's rivers. So instead of getting soy from the Amazon rainforest, Cargill just switched to getting soy from Cerrado, and no one was the wiser. While deforestation of the Amazon rainforest slowed down exponentially between 2008 and 2012, deforestation in Cerrado sped up. Fast forward to 2018, and Cerrado had lost 95,000 square kilometers of rainforest. That is 2/3 more than what was ever cleared in the Amazon. And the Amazon is 3 times the size, so a giant chunk of the Cerrado rainforest is now gone. So
See that? Now let's get let's go to KJV. Now, when you go to Isaiah 14, I'm going to start at verse 4. You see Israel's taunt. Starting at verse 4, it says that thou should take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased, all right? And see, the modern day king of Babylon, is these Edomites, man. The Lord have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. And this is what's going to happen. All right. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindered. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. And that's what's going to happen when this Edomite is took down, man. Yeah, the fir tree rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellers come up against us. All right, and this scripture is kind of manifold, all right, because you're going to refer to the people as trees, but this is actually talking about the earth is really going to rejoice, man. The trees, everything is really, you see it right here. The whole earth is at rest and it's quiet, and they break forth into singing. The animals, everything is going to be good when this Edomite is took down, man. And the trees is gonna say, no fellers come up against us. You see how you destroying the Amazon, destroying Cerrado, destroying just the planet, the animals, the food, the water, the air, man. That's what this Edomite is doing. But see, when he's put down, the whole earth is gonna be at rest. Okay. Let's go back to the vid.
The size, so a giant chunk of the Cerrado rainforest is now gone. So Greenpeace approached Cargill again and demanded that they stop exploiting Cerrado. In response, Cargill put on their best PR face. They didn't overtly agree to Greenpeace's demands and instead created a Cargill-branded soy action plan. This plan promised that $30 million would be put towards research for alternatives to growing crops on native lands. It sounded very noble, very ambitious, like progress was actually being made, when in reality, this plan was as vague as can be. But it worked. After they presented this plan to the world, they just turned around and went straight back to buying soy from Cerrado. Cargo's argument.
See, again, this is the Edomite, man. All right. The scriptures describe him as well as it do. It describes us to a T. It describes him to a T. Let's go to Psalms 52. All right. Starting at verse 2, it says what? Thy tongue devises mischief like a sharp razor, working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. Salah. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. All right. You see what I'm saying? And then let's go to what's what I want to get Sirach. All right. Now this is Sirach. All right, the 19th chapter in the GNT, verse 26. It says, and it's driving these Edomites, man. Then there are those wicked people who go about looking very soft and mournful, but who are only trying to deceive you. They will turn their faces away and pretend not to hear you, but they'll take advantage of you when you least suspect it, right? And this is these Edomites, man. They go around doing this from Becky at your job all the way to, the elites. Verse 28, if for some reason they are unable to see it now, they'll get around to it at the first opportunity, man. That's why, all they did was they put on a good PR face, and what happened? They went right back to their madness. All right. When something happened in the Amazon, then they went to Cerrado. All right. They always do that. They're not in trouble as other men, like the scriptures say. This is why they're able to slither and slide around, because they're in their kingdom. All right, let's continue on.
Argument against not buying soy from Cerrado is that if they moved out, someone else was just gonna move in. Like China, for example, who buys most of Brazil's soy. You wouldn't want to support China now, would you? We gotta keep supporting American jobs and the American economy.
See?
Today, Cargo is a huge company. They employ over 155,000 people worldwide. They handle a quarter of the country's total grain exports. 20% of our beef and pork comes from their factories. 6 million tons of sugar is shipped by Cargo each year. And when you're this big making this much money, it can be easy to let things slip through the cracks. In the year 2000, around 16 million pounds of sliced turkey processed by Cargo's Texas plant was recalled because it was contaminated with Listeria, a deadly bacteria. The meat caused 7 deaths, 3 stillbirths, and 29 illnesses across 10 American states. Later on that same year, a 3-year-old died from E. coli poisoning after eating beef that came from one of Cargo's processing plants. In 2009, more E. coli-tainted burgers were sent out, this time causing a woman to become paralyzed from the waist down. Why does this keep happening? Because Cargo has discovered an innovative way to save money on their meat processing costs. Here's how. Instead of using expensive cuts of meat to make your burgers, you want to use all those bits of meat and intestines that fall onto your factory floor. Just scoop all that up, soak it in some ammonia to kill the bacteria, throw it into a grinder, and out comes burger patties that cost 25% less. And sure, fecal matter may end up in there every now and then, especially if you're using intestines and all that good stuff. But as long as it's treated with bleach and the animals are fed human-grade antibiotics to reduce infection, everything should be a-okay. Just package it up and ship it out for the masses to consume.
Can't have.
You see? And again, we got this, all right, in the beginning. Okay. Ezekiel 4 and 13, it says what? And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their bread, their defiled bread among the Gentiles, where I will drive them, man. And you see all what's going on. And there's countless of other things that's going on with our food, man. Now let's look up defiled. All right. Let's do that in the blue letter. Here we go. And what do it say? Unclean, impure. All right. And that's what our food is. It's unclean and impure. You have GMOs. That's the purity being, taking the strip, our food are stripped of the nutrients. All right. That's why we can't eat and get the life of the food like we're supposed to, because it's impure, man. It's unclean. All right, let me do something. And that's pretty much it. Let's get this for edification's sake. Impure, mixed with foreign matter, adulterated, man. This is our food. All right, combined, blended, GMO. See, that's mixed food. It's combined, it's blended. All right, that's what impure is going into, man. All right, unclean. Let's get that definition. Unclean, dirty. All right, filthy, grubby, grimy. All right, foul. All right, impure again, unwashed. All of these. That's what's going on with our food, brothers and sisters. But you know, hey, we have the kingdom of heaven coming to us where we're gonna get clean food and pure food. All right. So that was pretty much it. The rest of the video is going into the water. You know, going into this water. All right.
Bunch of small players delivering such an important food source to the nation's consumers. You have to have larger companies that can do it cheaply and can keep costs down.
Which brings us to today. But you want to know what's even more sketchier than Cargill? America's tap water. If you're drinking tap water in America right now, you gotta stop. Because not only is it filled with fluoride, but it's also filled with heavy metals, chemicals, bacteria, and guess what else? You know all those drugs that Americans take like birth control that's filled with hormones? Yeah, people pee those chemicals out, it gets flushed down, that wastewater gets sent to a water treatment plant, but most of these treatment plants in America don't have the capability to filter out chemicals like that, so it gets sent straight back to your tap. That means every time you're drinking from the tap, every time you're showering, you are getting an entire cocktail of these things straight into your body. And we expose it all in our new documentary on tap water.
That's a whole nother issue, you see. And this is still coming from the Edomites, man. The wicked. All right. The earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. All right. And that's why the food is poison, as well as the water, the air, everything. The people, as far as our morality. All right. Hey, we got to get up out of here, y'all. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. To the next lesson. Shalom.